Alright, so this is in the first book of Maccabees, and in this time of Hanukkah, just wanted to talk about some of the things that took place. And it was actually during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. It's called Hellenism. He corrupted Israel with Hellenism. And it says, basically this is after the time of the Alexander the Great, and what happened is his empire split four ways, and this is what took place in the land of Israel, that the man Antiochus Epiphanes decided to tear down the temple and persecute the Jews who remained faithful to the Torah. So it says here that, just going to read you a few things. This is in Maccabees chapter 1. He said, From these there grew a sinful offshoot, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus, once a hostage in Rome. He became king in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. It was then that there emerged from Israel a set of renegades who led many people astray, saying, "Come, let us reach an understanding with the pagans surrounding us, for since we have separated ourselves from them, many misfortunes have overtaken us." This proposal proved acceptable, and a number of the people eagerly approached the king, who authorized them to practice these pagan observances. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem, such as the pagans have, and disguised their circumcision, and abandoned the holy covenant, and submitted to the heathen rule as willing slaves of unrighteousness. So what we have here, so you see here, the Israelites are a nation set apart. They were given the Torah. They were told to remain faithful unto Yahweh. But some corrupted individuals from the tribes of Israel, they decided to join with the pagans or the heathen or the nations. And this was a world power, the Greek world power. So it's like today, you're living in the world today, and you look around you and you see that the world is in darkness right now, everywhere you go. This is December 18th, and people are shopping for what they call Christmas, and it's all about this holiday I call it a holiday, Christmas, and then New Year, and it's all about money, and it's all about big business, and it's all about false religion, because they have the people, they bring a tree into their house, they bring a wreath on their door, and they don't know what these symbols even mean. Some do. You tell them the truth about Christmas, they continue doing it. They say it's not what it means to them. But let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, a long time ago, actually, in the time of Constantine, the emperor of Rome, he united church and state, and some of these customs evolved, bringing in pagan customs in with the teachings of the Bible, and created a religion called Christianity, and began as the Roman Catholic Church, and has actually spread throughout all major Christian religions: Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Anglican. All of these churches, they all basically follow the heathen customs of Christmas, Easter, and so what I want to talk about is there's been an unholy covenant made with the religions of the world and the politicians, just like was made in the last days, and it comes just like it was made in the old days. It's made in the last days. So just to make it just clear, we have to remain true. But another thing that stood out, we have to remain true to the truth and not make these unholy alliances. But they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem, and so you see that how sports runs America. It's entertainment, it's sports. The gymnasium was that way in the Greek Empire, and they brought that in Jerusalem. So there's a certain amount of this stuff we don't want to get caught up in. You know what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters? I'm talking to the people out there who are seeking the truth. So this was a terrible thing that happened in Jerusalem, and it got so far out of hand that people were murdered for keeping the Torah. And there's so many things, but he went into the temple, and he destroyed the temple. He removed the golden altar and the lampstands, and with all its fittings, and the tables where they did the showbread every Shabbat, and the vessels and the cups, all these things, and they stripped it bare. And it just continued on, and it said I mean, it became an ambush for the sanctuary, an evil adversary for Israel at all times. They shed innocent blood all around the sanctuary and defiled the sanctuary itself. The citizens of Jerusalem fled because of them. She became a dwelling place of strangers, estranged from her own children. Her children forsook her. Her sanctuaries became a desert in the wilderness. Her feasts were turned to mourning, her Sabbaths to mockery, her honor into reproach. Her dishonor now fully matched her former glory, and her greatness was turned to grief. The king then issued a proclamation to his whole country that they all were to become a single people, each renouncing his particular customs. All the pagans conformed to the king's decree, and many Israelites chose to accept his religion, sacrificing the idols and profaning the Sabbath. No true Israelite would do this. But see, the Israel of promise, the true Israel of the heart condition, is more than just being a bloodline Israelite. Israel is people from all tongues, tribes, and nations in these last days. So that some Israelites that were just bloodline Israelites, descendants of Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, physically weren't necessarily so spiritually. They weren't like their forefathers in the spirit. So what we have here, it says they banned the truth, they banned the Sabbath, and they actually defiled the sanctuary. They built altars and actually to idols and sacrificed pigs and unclean animals. They left their sons uncircumcised and prostituted themselves to all kinds of impurity and abomination, that they should forget the Torah and revoke all observance to it. So this happened again in 325 AD when the true disciples of Yahshua's teachings were corrupted and people abandoned the teachings of the law and the prophets. And we see that it happened then. I mean, this is terrible. These things should never happen. And it makes you wonder, why was the book of Maccabees left out of most Bibles? And I mean, it's in this Bible, and it's in what they call the Apocrypha. But I think the first book of Maccabees is very good, just historical, to remind us of the struggle. And I mean, it's too long to read all of this, my brothers and sisters. But there were some Israelites that remained firm. And at the end of the chapter 1, it says, "Yet there were many in Israel who stood firm and found the courage to refuse unclean food. They chose death rather than contamination by such fare or profanation of the Holy Covenant, and they were executed. It was a dreadful wrath that visited Israel." But there were some that chose death over breaking the faith. And so we just remember to keep the faith in the Almighty Creator, to remember the truth, to seek the truth. The Messiah teaches us that you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And in those days, in the ancient times, there was a man named Yehuda Maccabee, and that's why it's the Maccabee warriors. And these people rose up, and they fought many battles, and won, and fought the Greeks back. And they pushed them all the way out, and they took back over the Temple Mount, and they eventually rebuilt the sanctuary to where they could worship again, and they made it to where they purified the temple. And they said that, and this is actually in chapter 4, it says, "Yehuda said to his brothers, 'Now that our enemies have been defeated, let us go up to the sanctuary to purify the sanctuary and dedicate it.' So they marshaled the whole army and went up to Zion, and they found it was broken down. They built it all back together. They put it together, and on the 25th day of the 9th month of Kislev, on the year of 148, they rose at dawn and offered a lawful sacrifice, a true sacrifice, on the new altar which they had made. The altar was dedicated at the sound of the zithers, the harps, the cymbals, at the same time of the year, and on the same day which the pagans had originally profaned it. The whole people fell down prostrate in adoration, praising to the heavens Him who had made them so successful. For 8 days they celebrated the dedication, or the Chanukah, of the altar, joyfully offering sacrifices, communion sacrifices, and thanksgiving. They ornamented the front of the temple with crowns and bosses of gold, prepared the gates and the storerooms, fitted the doors. There was no end to the rejoicing among the people, and there was no end to the rejoicing among the people, and the reproach of the pagans was lifted from them. Yehuda with his brothers and the whole assembly of Israel made it a law that the days of the dedication, or Chanukah, of the altar should be celebrated yearly at its proper season, for 8 days, beginning on the 25th day of Kislev, with rejoicing and gladness. Then they proceeded to build the high walls of the strong towers around Mount Zion, to protect it. So, what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, is because of the faith of people, if it wasn't for the Yehuda and his brothers who stood amidst adversity and against the world basically, the true faith will be gone. You wouldn't even have the scriptures today. You wouldn't even have the Bible. There would have been no temple for the Messiah Yahshua to come and visit. So in this time, in this, like I said before on the other video, one person standing up for the truth, bringing the light, the understanding, dispels darkness. So you see people that you love getting involved with Christmas and these heathen customs, and they don't understand what they're doing. Look to the roots of Christmas. Look to the history of it. We got to dispel the darkness. We got to, you know, the world. It's more than these, even the days of deception or the fall days that the world is. The whole world is under a shroud, a veil, and we have to lift up the truth and remove, you know, help our brothers and sisters come out of Babylon and see the truth. And people are actually out there in every land, every tongue, tribe, and nation, from Brazil to Antarctica to the North Pole, you know, and all the way from Africa, all the way to Mexico, and all over this beautiful planet. This beautiful planet is Yahweh's planet, and one day the humble will inherit the land. And remember, so just as they had to fight physical battles to overcome in those last days, and I mean, as they had to fight physical battles to overcome in those days, in these days, which is called the end times, we fight a spiritual battle. So it's good over evil. It's knowledge and understanding, you know, over lies and deception. And the truth dispels darkness. So we have the light, and in this Hanukkah time, it's a rally. We must rally, we must train ourselves, we must remain dedicated, livicated to the truth, and to seeking the truth, and to the covenant of Yahweh, to keep His Sabbath holy, to keep the worship pure, and to keep following Yahshua HaMashiach unto victory, till we see the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, as through Yahshua the reigning King and High Priest, and Jerusalem above. I love you all so much, and thanks for tuning in to this little Hanukkah reasoning. And read the book of Maccabees for yourself. Look into it, and know that from that time, over 2,000 years, people have been keeping the Feast of Hanukkah. And it has nothing to do with a lot of what you see today, that it's just another worldly holiday. But the actual walk of the Yehudim, the faithful Jews that have actually preserved the Torah all these years, it's a serious thing, my brothers and sisters, and it must be respected and loved. And to understand that the prophecies must fulfill, and there must be a true Israel gathered from all where Israel was scattered all over the world, and there's going to be a great blessing on this earth, and every day is really a blessing on this earth. So, you know, we're on the kingdom road, and we're always walking in the light when we seek the light. So seek understanding, seek love, and you know, have a blessed feast of Hanukkah, Chag Sameach, and may there be joy with your festival. Shalom, health, and well-being. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, Yah bless.